Hey guys, Joe here, and smartphones are a pretty big part of our everyday lives. And without a smartphone, I don't know where I would be, none of my friends know where they would be. Smartphones have become a part of us. But a lot of people forget what came before smartphones to influence what they are today, whether it be older smartphones or even stuff that came before the smartphone actually existed. So this is going to be the top 5 most influential smartphones and smartphone-like devices. Number 5 is the Palm Pilot. You remember those back in the 90s and the early 2000s? Everybody wanted one of those. It was a pretty decent size. It fit in your pocket fairly easily. You put your calendar on there, your address book, and all your appointments could go in there, all kinds of stuff, and it was a very useful little tool. And everybody wanted one. I remember my mom having one. So these devices really, they weren't phones. I mean, you couldn't call or text on them, but they're the device that really probably influenced smartphone makers, because these features, as I'm sure you all know, are now smartphone features. They're the features that are on smartphones. Now, number 4 is the IBM Simon. Now, this was a smartphone. The reason I put it in quotes is because it looked nothing like what we think of a smartphone today. Here it is. It looked a lot more like those first phones from the 80s, but it's ugly. It just is ugly. And not to ruin its self-esteem or anything, but especially since what phones look like now. But this was the first smartphone that had your address book, that had a calendar, that had calling and texting all built into it. Not texting, it was the 90s, but it had calling built into it. So it was really the first phone to have these capabilities. And this, of course, evolved into, current smartphones. Number 3 is the original Motorola Droid. Now, this was released in 2009, so this is very recent, only 5 years old. And this was a great phone. It really shaped Android and what it would become, because it was the first Android phone that was really popular. And it was really the first well-built Android phone. The other ones were, kind of cheap, and the Android back then wasn't very good. The version of Android that came on this was actually pretty good. This phone was so good, and it actually competed with the iPhone very well. In fact, this is really the first phone to start the Android versus iPhone wars that are still going on today. And fun fact, this is kind of like a Nexus device before the Nexus program existed, because this ran stock Android. There was no overlay from Motorola putting on it. It ran just Android directly from Google. Alright, number 2 and 1 are really the first seeds in what our smartphones like right now, like what we think of right now. So number 2 is the HTC Dream. Now, this was the first Android phone ever. It ran the first version of Android, which sucked. It was horrible, very hard to use, very slow, very laggy. It did get the job done, however, and this was really, if you look at this versus, if you look at the HTC Dream versus a Nexus 5, you see how much Android has grown since then. And Android is great now. In many ways, it's better than iOS is. Now, don't start fighting the comment section. That's just an opinion of people who are right. Now, here is number 1. Dun, dun, dun! Now, this phone was released in 2007. I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to see this coming. In fact, when I started this list, I knew that this would be number 1. It's really evolved a lot into today. Okay, it's the first iPhone. Yes, some of you might, I'm sure a lot of you saw this coming. Once I said 2007, a lot of you were probably like, yep, I knew it. So if you knew it, congratulations, you win absolutely nothing. If you didn't know it, congratulations, you still don't win anything. So you're no better than the winners, even though you're a loser. Okay, so this phone, I want you to, it was horrible, especially compared to today's standards. But it really was the first smartphone that really shaped what smartphones look like today. I mean, Android was made huge after this, so the iPhone was a big deal. Android wasn't so much back then. This is the first really phone to have your mail, your calendar, your contacts, your photos, your texting, your calling, your music, all on one device. And for the time, it did a pretty good job of it. It was very low spec. It was slow. It was poorly designed. iPhone OS was horrible back then. Not saying it's any good now. But if you look at this phone versus the iPhone 5S, and if you even look at what we know so far about the iPhone 6, it's really evolved into a lot. And if you look at smartphones before iPhone and after iPhone, smartphones before sucked. They were stupid. They were smaller screens. The 3.5-inch screen on the iPhone was huge back then. Now it's tiny. If you hear a 3.5-inch screen, nobody's going to want it. But back then it was huge, and it was really impressive to everybody that a phone could do all this. So before iPhone, most if not all smartphones had physical buttons. They didn't have touch screens. They had QWERTY keyboards that sucked because they were tiny and plastic and they could break. And with iPhone, with a full touch display and full screen and an on-screen keyboard, you look at smartphones after, and there was a lot more on-screen keyboard. In fact, that's pretty much standard now, is to have an on-screen keyboard and full touch controls. Alright guys, that's the video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check the links in the 4 corners of your screen and click that subscribe button below my video frame. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up down below. But anyway guys, I'm Joe Green and I will see you Thursday.
Hey there, really? How creepy.
Now this phone was released in 2007. I'm sure a lot of people used to see that. It was really... Exactly.
Okay then. Here, wait, I might as well just draw on your face with a Sharpie.
Yes, you should do that.
No, she shouldn't.
You should do it like at a random part in the video.
We'll
You'll
draw
just
on
have a
hers in
mustache.
several colors of Sharpie.
Okay, good. I'll go get all my Sharpies.
I'll paint your fingernails.
No, with Sharpies.
I'll kill you if you do that.
I'll kill you if you draw on my face.
Wasn't wasting time.
Whatever.
Hey there, really? How creepy. That was the weirdest one. That was the weird. That was the weirdest one yet.
I couldn't even hold back. I just started laughing. Normally I'm like in the back, but I lost. I could not hold it back any longer.
How weird am I? 1 to 10.
No, I'm editing that out.
Okay. I'm really weird.
Write him in the comments. 50. They can't see that. Don't show them. No.
I jumped.
I see that.
Don't bite me.
I wasn't going to.
Okay, good.
Alright. Thank you guys for watching.
Hey there, really? How creepy. How creepy. How creepy.